Hello. We want to start recording some of our thoughts after the Healing Together conference while still recovering from it. So we're going to get some of them recorded while we do our little, walking around, pacing things that help our back pain. And then at some point, I'm sure we're going to be like, that's too much, and sit down. Pain management. I think first off, it was really cool just, for the rest of my system, the way they responded to getting us there and stuff. That was really cool. Because there's a lot of things that make traveling difficult. A lot of things. And instead of feeling so overwhelmed that we couldn't do it, or that it would flare up illnesses and issues and make it impossible, they were just like, okay, this is what we're gonna do for that, and this is what we're gonna do for this. The fact that we can, the pain, we have a cane and it folds up, so if we don't have to use it, it doesn't take a load of effort to carry, and if we do have to use it, it's right there. And then the skills, so making sure that they're doing things that we've built into coping mechanisms that worked, that are hard to build into coping mechanisms that work. It's not that simple. If you're a system, you can't just be breath work and grounding immediately, but you can build them into things that work. And people have spent a long time doing that so that they help. And then that means that if we start getting pain, they're more aware of it quickly instead of just not reading the signals. And it also means they know to rest and pace and relax our muscles so that the tension isn't making the joint pain worse. So that's cool. And then we have headphones, and we have a map called an app called City Mapper, which is really cool. And you just put in the directions of where you want to get to, and it takes you every route. It shows you which bus stop to get on, when to get off the bus, and it'll give you an alert. Now if you have headphones on, it just speaks to you the whole time. So even if somebody dissociates, or if one of us switches in and we're completely unaware of where we are, instead of getting lost, we just follow the map. So that's really cool. And then we know that we can do things have music playing all the time to help anchor us to the front. So that's really cool. So that kind of deals with a lot of the things that are difficult. It doesn't mean they stop being difficult. It just means that at every stage people know how to manage it for us. And then because we've got the hosts doing that, they're kind of telling us that they've got it the whole time. So they're like, hey, if you want to be present, you're welcome, but you don't have to take responsibility for all these difficult things, the fact that we might get lost, we have to find our way, the pain management, and it really takes the weight off, because then those of us that want to just walk and be look, that fence is pretty, look, these flowers are cute, then we can just kind of be present and not, we can go in and out when we want, and if the pain gets too much or something, we can just tag out and know that they've got it. And they really worked hard to be able to build that communication so we could do that. So that was cool. The wind blows, I'll take it as a stretch break. It can remind me. Ow! Is it supposed to make that noise? Oh. I better start glowing like a glow stick. When we were there, it was really cool because we can just kind of ride shotgun and watch, and every time I feel I'm stressed, instead of getting pulled to the front and thinking I've got to deal with this, I've got to ask where we're going, I've got to tell this person why we're here, I've got to interact, and I'm just watching, and the hosts are no, we got this, and then they just ask, and they're just we're here for this. It looks so easy, and they're yeah, cool, wait around there. Alright, man, is that chronic dissociation makes things so difficult. It's not just the interaction, it's from our experiences, the level of safety protocols that go off internally and affect the body and affect the brain and affect the perception and affect the way we interact, that then affect the cues we pick up from other people, that reconfirm the biases we have. There's so much that goes on that makes it inaccessible to just ask somebody, I'm here for this conference, where do I go? and to feel safe doing it. And the fact that they could just do that while like more of us can watch them do it, it really helps, because then you're just like, oh, okay, this can be safe for us as well. And then, like, a lot of the time being there, you know, a lot of us were like, is it really okay going into this like big space with with a bunch of doctors basically, and like a bunch of medical people that we've had really bad experience. I think every system has probably had bad experiences with, unfortunately. So like there were loads of us inside just being like, I don't really feel great about going into this room with lots of doctors. And again, the hosts were kind of just able to be like, yeah, that makes sense. Like, gestures brought me the entire timeline. So this is not then. Like, we can speak. Like, our voice actually has power. It will be heard. So we don't need to worry about these things. We can take actions. Like, we can leave again if we don't like it. And if someone does something we don't like or says something we don't like, we can say. So and like also they were just like, these people will listen, which like a lot of us were like very sus about. But then, and they're just repeatedly getting told like, these are not the same people, this is not the same situation, this is a new situation, we can respond in new ways. And then like seeing them do it really helped, because then it starts to seem possible. And the way that all of the like medical people in there responded, it was like that. They didn't, you know when you've experienced people like this, it's like right down to the tone, the body language, the facial expressions, the you know when somebody's got an air of like thinking they're more right about your experiences than you are, and of not being able to hear, which a lot of people have, and because they're wrong, that brings more trauma. So someone that's going to do that is not going to be a safe person, because they're not going to be able to hear or like see evidence that changes their reality to learn. So you can tell when someone's doing that, and like literally none of the people there were doing that. They were very like calm and very like emotionally present. And when they spoke about other systems, they called them like the real experts in the room, experts by experience. And they really appreciated the information that people who have lived this have. They didn't think that they knew better. They knew that like working together is the best way, with like an equality that I haven't seen a lot of professionals have. But it was really cool because they kind of like raised up people with lived experience and amplified their voices, but without speaking over them. But they were also just like supportive in what they were saying. So I really think you need both. You need people who have had training, who understand like what's happening because of learning for years, but you also need people who have lived it, who know the in and outs, because you need people that can like see the zoomed out version, and you need people that can like zoom in and tell you what it's like from that perspective. And I think if you don't have both working together, it's just not, you're just gonna miss stuff. But it actually felt like they cared about that, and like they actually were doing that, and that was really cool.